Imagine stepping out of your front door and immediately sinking ankle-deep into a warm, brown sludge. This isn't a post-apocalyptic wasteland or a Hollywood horror movie. This was just a normal Tuesday morning for millions of people living in the greatest cities of the ancient world. Today, we look at ancient Rome, brilliant Athens, or majestic Babylon as the pinnacle of human achievement. We see beautiful white marble statues, towering columns, and grand emperors ruling over vast territories. But history books often leave out one incredibly disturbing detail. The grandest civilizations in human history were built directly on top of mountains of literal human garbage. In fact, the smell of these legendary cities was so completely overwhelming, it could be detected from miles away. Why did the smartest minds of the ancient world completely fail at basic hygiene? How did humanity survive for thousands of years while surrounded by deadly, invisible enemies? The truth behind ancient cities is far more terrifying, disgusting, and fascinating than you have ever been told. To understand how things got so bad, we have to look at a massive psychological trap. For most of human history, our ancestors did not live in giant, crowded concrete jungles. They lived in small, wandering tribes, moving from one place to another in the open wilderness. When a small nomadic tribe produced waste, they simply walked away from it. Nature easily absorbed the mess, and the environment naturally reset itself over time. But then, everything changed when humans invented agriculture and decided to settle down. Suddenly, thousands of people were packed tightly together into tiny, permanent geographic spaces. Our brains, however, were still entirely hardwired for the old, wandering lifestyle. People kept throwing their trash right outside their doors, subconsciously expecting it to just disappear. But in a crowded city, that trash didn't magically go away, it just accumulated into a nightmare. Let's take a walk through the bustling streets of ancient Rome, the absolute superpower of its era. You might expect pristine stone roads, but the reality was a chaotic obstacle course of filth. There were no public trash cans, no organized garbage trucks, and absolutely no municipal cleaning crews. Household waste, rotting food scraps, and broken pottery were simply tossed out the window. If you were walking down a Roman street, you constantly had to look up to avoid flying debris. And it gets much worse when we look at how they handled human biological waste. While Rome famously built massive, impressive aqueducts, these only supplied water to the ultra-wealthy. The average citizen lived in poorly constructed, multi-story apartment buildings called insulae. These crowded buildings had absolutely no indoor plumbing or running water whatsoever. So, what did people do when nature called in the middle of the dark night? They used a simple clay chamber pot kept right under their wooden beds. And in the morning, instead of walking down flights of stairs, they took the ultimate shortcut. They opened their wooden shutters and emptied the contents straight onto the crowded street below. This practice was so common that Roman law actually included a specific legal statute for it. It allowed citizens to sue if they were hit by falling waste, but only if they suffered physical injury. If your clothes were just completely ruined by flying sewage, the law basically told you to get over it. Now, you might wonder why the city leaders didn't just build a massive, universal sewer system. Well, Rome actually did build a legendary sewer network called the Cloaca Maxima. But here is the bizarre twist: it wasn't actually built to keep the citizens clean. Its primary purpose was simply to drain the swampy water out of the local valleys. Connecting a private home to this major sewer line was incredibly expensive and highly dangerous. Because these primitive sewers lacked modern traps, deadly, explosive methane gases would regularly build up inside them. An open flame near an ancient toilet could literally cause a terrifying explosion right under your seat. Even worse, large, hungry sewer rats and even wild creatures could climb directly up into your home. Because of this constant danger, most ordinary people preferred to just use public toilets. But these ancient public facilities were a far cry from the private stalls we enjoy today. They featured long stone benches with holes cut out, spaced mere inches apart from each other. People sat side by side, shoulder to shoulder, conducting their business while chatting about politics or the weather. And the method they used for wiping is perhaps the most shocking detail of all. There was absolutely no toilet paper in the ancient world. Instead, they shared a single tool called a tersorium, which was a sea sponge tied to a wooden stick. After using it, they would rinse it in a small bucket of salty water and leave it for the next stranger. This shared sponge became a massive superhighway for spreading deadly parasites and painful diseases. But the absolute biggest reason ancient cities stayed so dirty was a profound scientific misunderstanding. For thousands of years, humanity had absolutely no concept of germ theory. They had no idea that microscopic bacteria existed, let alone that they caused sickness. Instead, doctors and philosophers wholeheartedly believed in something called the miasma theory. This theory claimed that all deadly diseases were caused by bad air or foul odors coming from the earth. They believed that if you could just mask a terrible smell, you would completely protect yourself from sickness. So, instead of cleaning up the underlying filth, they burned sweet incense or sprayed perfumes. They were fighting a deadly, invisible bacterial war using nothing but pleasant fragrances. This total lack of hygiene created an absolute paradise for dangerous pests. Swarms of flies, millions of fleas, and aggressive rats thrived in these massive piles of urban garbage. These pests acted as silent, hyper-efficient vectors, carrying deadly pathogens directly into human homes. Plagues and mysterious illnesses would regularly sweep through ancient cities, wiping out massive chunks of the population. Life expectancy in these grand urban centers was shockingly low, often averaging just 20 to 30 years. If you lived in the countryside, your chances of surviving to old age were drastically higher. Yet, despite the constant smell, the rampant disease, and the terrifying death toll, people kept coming. Ancient cities continued to grow larger, more crowded, and more powerful by the century. This reveals a fascinating truth about human psychology and the deep desire for connection. Humans are fundamentally social creatures who crave community, economic opportunity, and shared culture. The immense benefits of trade, safety in numbers, and shared ideas completely outweighed the horrific daily conditions. People were willing to tolerate ankle-deep sludge and flying sewage just to be a part of something greater. It took humanity thousands of years of painful trial and error to finally connect the dots. We had to invent the microscope, discover bacteria, and completely revolutionize civil engineering. Clean running water and underground waste management are the true foundations of our modern world. Without them, our current soaring skyscrapers and massive megacities simply could not exist. So, the next time you wash your hands or flush a clean toilet, take a brief moment to appreciate it. Because for our ancestors, a simple, clean day was an unimaginable luxury.